welcome to the Carpediem company. This video is about the science of how our minds and bodies converge in trauma healing. This channel is an effort to entertain you with a vast variety of topics. If you wish to support this effort, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon, or make a one-time contribution. Your support will help us create more of these videos more frequently on more number of topics. Do check out all the links in the description below. Let's get started. How science transforms our brains and our bodies into trauma treatments. When our emotions get complicated, we no longer feel fully alive. This trauma is no more dangerous than trauma treatment, and the Boston-based Dutch psychiatrist and PTSD no one has provided a more enlightened, sympathetic and constructive approach to such treatment than the researcher Basil van der Kolk. Body keeps score. In Trauma to the Brain, Brain and Body Trauma, he finds excessive cuts in the body that many people experience a history of trauma and neglect and his own work along the most productive path of attraction. And a wealth of other research in three main areas of study: neoplasia, which deals with how brain processes work in the brain; developmental psychology that deals with traumatic experiences affecting the brain and brain development; and interpersonal neurobiology, which examines how our own behavior affects the emotional and neurological states of those around us. Trauma, Van der Kolk notes, affects not only those who have suffered, but also those around them, and especially those who love them. He writes, "Not a fighting soldier, or going to a refugee camp in Syria or Congo to deal with the trauma. Trauma happens to us, our friends, our families and our neighbors." Research by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found that 1 in 5 Americans had sexually abused a child, 1 in 4 was beaten by one of his parents to the point of scarring on his body, and 1 in 3 couples is involved in physical violence. A quarter of us grew up with alcohol relatives, and 1 in 8 saw their mother beaten or beaten. In order to be active while carrying the memory of terror, and the feeling of complete weakness and shame of weakness, one needs to be willing. Among trauma survivors, Van der Kolk notes, the parts of the brain that have been developed to monitor for danger remain overactive and are associated with few danger signs, real or illusions, intense stress feelings and heavy sensations. Severe stress can trigger a reaction. Such post-traumatic reactions make it difficult for survivors to connect with other people, as proximity often triggers a sense of danger. And yet the thing that scares us most after experiencing trauma, close contact with other people, is what we need most to regain psycho-emotional coherence and start treatment. Van der Kolk writes, "Feeling safe with other people is probably the most important aspect of mental health. Secure connections are fundamental to a meaningful and satisfying life. That's why," he says, "that's why we've developed an improved evolution to detect danger. We're incredibly attached to the emotionally subtle emotional changes in the people around us and, although we've always experienced these, ignore the lessons we can read another person's friendship or animosity based on impractical cues such as brow tension, lip curve and body angles. But the most dangerous effect of trauma is that it impairs the ability of others to read correctly, leaving the trauma survivor with very little ability to detect danger or more likely to forget danger where someone does not happen. Sadly, hazards and safety are human relationships that normalize and repair our ability to read correctly." Van der Kolk writes, "Social support is not just about being in the presence of others. The crucial issue is the real thing. To be really heard and seen by the people around us, to feel like we're stuck in someone else's mind and brain. We need a sense of security to calm, heal and grow our physiology. No doctor can prescribe friendship and love, they are complex and hard-earned. You don't need a history of trauma to feel self-conscious and even nervous about partying with strangers, but trauma can turn the whole world into a gathering of strangers." Properly addressing trauma requires a cultural shift away from the pattern of illness on which 20th century psychology and psychology were built. This model illustrates a number of cultural disorders that affect everything from our long-standing denial of stress and physical illness to the way we perceive our romantic failures, trauma and its psychological consequences. This is the logic of Van der Kolk. Not a mental illness, but an adaptation. He writes, "The challenge of recovery is to re-establish ownership of your body and your own mind. It means feeling free to know what you know and how you feel without being thoughtless, angry, embarrassed or." For most people this involves, 1. Finding a way to stay calm and focused, 2. Learning to maintain that calm in response to images, thoughts, sounds, or bodily sensations that remind you of the past, 3. Finding a way. Don't keep secrets from yourself, don't even keep secrets about how you live. The recovery process needs to be revisited without being overwhelmed by the sensations that need to be revived. Van der Kolk argues that the way to accomplish this is to learn to be present in the body with these extreme emotions and their sensory counterparts. He writes, "People with trauma live with seemingly unbearable sensations, they feel a broken heart and are disturbed by the uncomfortable feelings that easily cling to their stomachs or chest. Yet avoiding feeling these feelings in our body increases our weakness to overcome them. People with trauma are often afraid to feel it. These are not too many criminals, hopefully, not to hurt them anymore, but their own physical sensations that are now enemies. The praise of being hijacked by an uncomfortable sensation keeps the body cool and the mind closed. Although trauma is a thing of the past, the emotional brain continues to produce emotions that make the victim feel scared and helpless. Not surprisingly, many trauma survivors are forced to eat and drink, are afraid to fall in love, and avoid many social activities. Their sensory world is very limited. Another disadvantage of treatment is that although contact are often frightening due to trauma, the feeling of social support and lack of community nitty-gritty is the foundation on which a health connection is built with our own feelings and sensations. Half a century after Dorothy Day's memorable claim, it has been said that we have all known loneliness for a long time and we have learned that the only solution is love and that love comes with lack of community nitty-gritty, writes Van der. All of us, but especially children, need trust that others will know, affirm, and appreciate us. Without it we cannot develop a sense of agency that will enable us to emphasize, "This is what I believe, this is what I stand for, this is what I will dedicate myself to." As long as we feel safe in the hearts and minds of our loved ones, we will cross mountains and deserts and stay up all night to complete the project. Children and adults will do anything for those who love them. But if we feel abandoned, useless or invisible, it doesn't matter. Fear, curiosity and fear. For a healthy society we must raise children who can play and learn safely. There can be no growth without curiosity and through trial and error, who you are and you're important. There can be no optimization without being able to detect. Practical and psychological, both ways are to do what Van der Kolk saves the remaining unbelievable, liberating, and very helpful body points. Complemented with Walt Whitman on healing body and soul, inspired by the science of immunologist Esther Sternberg on how our emotions affect our susceptibility to burnout and disease, to artist Marina Abramovic for the shock of art. When converting to raw materials, then treat yourself to Van der Kolk. It is fantastic when interacting with Crash to tip it. Hope you like the video. Share it across with those whom you think might benefit from this. If you wish to support the production of more videos like these, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon, or make a one-time contribution, all through the links in the description below.